I got to ask, because the jam is so good with Grohl and Duff. How much more? How long did the tape recorder run on that jam? And he must have done a few others. He could have just done 4 minutes.
Actually, it was a very quick afternoon. It was like we learned it that afternoon, and we jammed it probably 3 or 4 times, and took the best take out of the 3 or 4.
That was, you know what? And where it sits on the record, it's exactly like that. That's exactly where you need it to be in the record. It's
really?
Perfect. Well, it's a smoke break.
Well, the
the
sequencing on this record was one of those kind of. It was important to make sure that it sort of had the right energy at the top, and it sort of, because there's a lot of ups and downs, and it had to have a certain continuity to it. And I think we probably put about 3 sequences together before we found the one that was.
Now the challenge for the record, I guess, and for you, and again, because since there's no record companies and there's no rules, and they're not in art there should ever have been, but I mean, there's no pressure to go recreate this record. Although I'm sure one night getting everyone together, doing it, and doing the DVD would be amazing. But
that's in the works.
as a working musician, though, you want to go tour. What's like the Josh Chris live situation?
With me, I've sort of come from the old sort of adage that making a record is really a stepping stone to just going out and touring. And so as soon as I started actually recording this, I started thinking about how I was going to go out and tour it, and it was pretty easy to come up with the idea that I'm not going to try and nail down all these different people for a series of dates. So my plan was to find one really, really capable singer, and I started doing that. And I that plan was in the back of my head, and I made the whole album. And at the very end, I recruited Miles Kennedy. And I'd never worked with before, and he just blew my mind with his ability. I was like, wow, And
he's out of the gig too. So.
Well, he's got Alter Bridge. He's working on Alter Bridge record. But he signed on to do this tour, and he was I had a couple guys that were really good, but he was like perfect to come up, and he's got 2 songs in this record. You haven't heard the second one because we just squeezed it on there a couple of weeks ago. But so he can sing those 2 songs, and then he can sing, he can sing By the Sword. He can sing a couple other songs. But he can also do Guns N' Roses stuff. I heard him do an amazing version of Sweet Child of Mine, and we'll do some Velvet songs, and we'll just sort of do the whole thing. And then whenever we're in the city, when we happen to be in the same city as one of the artists who was on this record, I'm totally for doing the spontaneous guest spots and shit like that.
Let's go to the wish list. Who was on the wish list that you weren't able to sync up with?
There wasn't really a wish list. All the vocalist choices were inspired by the music, which was a good way to go. If I had gone the wish list route, it would have been like 90, 100 different people to pick and choose from, and I don't think it would have ever gotten done. But there was names floating around, and this and that and the other, and people that I didn't really chase down. I had the guys that I really earmarked for each song, and I was pretty successful in doing that. I had one guy who couldn't do it because his record company would not allow him to do it. I had one guy that I worked with that didn't turn out the way that I thought it was going to, and ended up getting somebody else, but it all worked out, in the end. And of course, there's the Jack White rumor, right? And that was totally blown out of proportion. Originally, before I'd met Eric Valentine, I'd been sort of talking with Mark Ronson about doing this, which would have been a very interesting take on the whole concept. And he had suggested Jack White for one of the songs, and actually tracked him down. I don't know Jack very well. I met him once. And it was totally cool. He goes, well, I'd love to play on it. I just don't want to sing on it. And I totally understand that a lot of guys don't like to sing outside of their own comfort zone. And that was the same with Dave Grohl. He didn't want to sing, So it was no big deal. It wasn't like I tried to get Jack and he blew me off, So I don't want to put Jack in a bad light.
What about Westerberg? I would have loved to...
It just never crossed my mind.
Yeah. In I think 2012 will be when Guns will be eligible for the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame. Yeah. When that comes up, be it whatever year it does come up, any thoughts of how that will be handled? Because everyone deserves their due.
Yeah, well, I mean, I didn't become aware of that until Velvet Revolver filled in for Van Halen, which was sort of funny because that was a perfect example of how ridiculous, a band that's split up in that situation. And then I started looking at, I would hope that we would be able to be mature enough to be able to deal with that, but I haven't sat down and really thought about it. And we'll see. For one, we're eligible, but whether we get it is another thing.
Right. I mean, it's kind of slam dunk first ballot. I think I don't see how it couldn't. Or else, if Guns
how long did it take for Kiss to get it?
Right, yeah.
Right?
Well, there you go.
Yeah.
This is but at the end of the day, if it's the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame, now this is the whole controversy because ABBA's going in this week, and there's nothing wrong with that. Is it the Music Hall of Fame? But if it's the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame, it's pretty hard not to be GNR, not to be first ballot. Kind of defeats the whole purpose if it's not.
All things considered, I never count my chickens.
Well, and again, the pub, it's something. You know what? Whatever they do in a building or make your bust in a museum, it's the public that speaks the loudest. And I think in that realm, you've done well. And best of luck with this record. And we look forward to you coming to town. And we appreciate you spending some time with us today.
Yeah. It's awesome talking to you, man.
Slash.